Happy today. I am William Brown from IamWilliamBrown.com. This is Disconnect to Connect One Word Conversations. One Word Conversations is a self-discovery, relationship building conversation designed to help us look at our language. Many times we can think of all the lovely words that we can come up with to try to have a conversation and find disconnection because words just don't come with definitions. They come with stories and emotions and anxieties and all those things. And so the more that we are able to have a conversation around one word, then we can learn more about ourselves and other people and build relationships. One Word Conversations is brought to you by IamWilliamBrown.com, a place to help you be yourself and live your life. One way that I spotlight what's available at I Am William Brown, the store, is our U cards. Our U cards are intention setting cards. They are journal prompts, and they are also a game. So the cards that I picked for today to set the intention for this conversation is I am heard, you are grateful, and be you, do you, for you. So with that in mind, I invite you to like, share, ask questions, add comments, subscribe, do all those things to let me know that this conversation is adding value to you. So our word for today is also. So there's a lot of things coming up from that word for me. So as I do, I will invite my guests in so we can have a conversation. Good morning.
Good morning. Hi, William.
Hello. This is the moment where I invite my guests to introduce themselves however it feels comfortable to them.
Thank you. Well, hi, everybody. My name is Zoe Share, and I am based in Toronto, Canada, and I am a CEO of a social media marketing agency called Schmooze Media. I am also a mom and a writer. I've written a children's book, and I'm a pregnant mom while we're at it today. So I'm a busy lady, but a very grateful one, and happy to be talking about this word also, because as a mom and entrepreneur, there's a long list.
Also, right? So thank you. With all that in mind and everything that you're bringing to this conversation, how does also land for you?
I mean, it's been a really interesting year. I think the whole world can agree with that. And I think when I was given the word also, I thought it was very fitting to me because I can explain myself with so many alsos. I'm Zoe. I am a CEO. Also, I'm a mom. Also, I've written a children's book. Also, I have helped to run charity fundraisers. Also, I have a husband who's an entrepreneur. Also,
Right.
The also feels like such a word of trying to fit in more.
Right.
And yet I struggle with it because if the list is too big, then I lose who I actually am at my core.
Absolutely.
So I think also is a really interesting word to explore because I think I try and use it too much to fill in my fear of just being myself.
Right. Oh, I totally get that. And that is, you know, how it's landed for me, and it still lands to me on that. Always feeling that I needed to justify my doing, my being, with, you know, I'm not just this. I am also that. I am also just kind of embrace that. And, you know, for me, it really kind of came to a head within my name. I have a story around, you know, me embracing I am William Brown, is that, you know, there was a point where when I was younger, when I was known as Willie and then Bill. And the more that I embrace William, I was able to embrace all of those names, that I was all of that. I was
Yeah.
also. And so there are sometimes people that know me as Bill for 30 years. I went by that. They would say, well, can I still call you Bill? And I don't want to, dishonor it. It's like, no, you can still do that. And the more that I really embrace that I am not losing anything, and there is so much more of me that I don't need to, I guess, justify. I just need to be aware of, then also isn't so stressful for me.
I totally get that. And so you'll appreciate this when we're talking about names. My last name is Share, and I run a social media company, which has a lot to do with content sharing.
Right. That's great.
I'm like, is that your media name, or is that your real name? And I'm like, no, it's my real name. And when I was a teacher, before I started my agency, I was Miss Share, the kindergarten teacher. Right. And it was like, Miss Share loves sharing. Now Zoe Share shares things on social media.
Wow.
Right? And so I've actually banned the word just from my life.
Wow.
Because I cannot just be one thing. Right. But also I don't need to be everything all at once.
Right. Wow.
It's such a good, like it really speaks so much to the journey I've gone on to sort of say, I am this and I am that. And also I'm Zoe. I'm not just Zoe, but I'm Zoe. And my last name happens to be Share, and I'm going to be who I'm going to be in this moment. And I'm going to show up. And the best thing I can do is just show up.
Wow.
It's
cut the just, right? Show up, right? Show up. The best thing I can do is show up. It's kind of interesting because I had that. There's a number of names this week that there was a question in my mind is, okay, is this their handle or is this their real name? And I think a couple people I asked, it's like, can you please give me your real name? And I got the same name back, and I was like, oh geez, I feel so bad, right? for demanding, because that can't be.
I think, to be honest, it was probably something longer and more Russian at some point, like Shershevsky or Sherensky or Sherenovika or something. It was just shortened to Share at some point in the history of my life, or my ancestors' lives rather. But it's a good name, I gotta say. I didn't change my name when I got married. It's too good.
Right. And it's I think that I guess what's coming up for me right now is, one, the power of our name, right? And the power of who we are and who we see ourselves to be. And then recognizing that is, enough, right? That, sometimes when I have feelings that I am not enough for a situation, or for, a moment, or for a relationship, there is this, what do I need to add? What also is available? So it can make me feel that I can bring enough to this. And I think that when we embrace the more than enough, and that we are complete. However, at the same time, there is, in this completeness, and this is what I call, a download, meaning that something's coming to my mind. I have no idea what the hell I'm talking about, but it's coming out of my mouth anyway. So good luck with understanding what I'm saying. But there is a feeling that, I'm whole and complete, right? I can embrace that. And also, I can embrace that there is a part of my completeness that I don't quite understand or am aware of, but I'm not missing anything. But it is, it's still all there, and it's like, it's just blowing my mind how that I can be enough and not be enough, and also be not enough. and still at the same time and be able to take actions and movements within that.
I think that it's such an interesting time for us to be having this conversation, and some of the people in my following know this, but so I've been feeling pretty low energy the last couple of weeks, probably the last couple of months, if I'm really honest. But, you know, I was like, okay, it's a pandemic. And also I run an agency. Also, right. I'm pregnant. Also, my husband started a new business. Also, I have a 3-year-old. And I started to think to myself, like, am I still there? Like, hello? Like, and then I discovered that I'm anemic. And it was such a relief because, and someone called me on this yesterday, actually, and they said, well, what if nothing had come back in your blood work? Would you be angry?
Right.
Isn't all that list of stuff that you were doing and showing up for in your life, isn't that enough to forgive yourself for feeling a bit down in the dumps? Like, if the doctor hadn't said you're low iron, you would kind of be mad about it. Because I have to tell you, when they said you're low iron and you need to take an iron therapy supplement, I was like, oh my gosh, something's actually wrong with me.
Right.
So it's so interesting how sometimes you want there to be another thing, right, to explain all the other things a little bit more. And then when someone called me on it, like, hey, you know, Zoe, if nothing had shown up in your blood work, it would still be okay for you to be feeling down for a little while. And I was like, you're right. I know you're right.
Right.
But also, it's kind of nice that
right. It's like, I need evidence and I don't need evidence, right? You know?
Well, the way you can understand how you feel, and like, you know, maybe 6 months ago, I would have been okay if nothing came back in my blood work as being wrong. But now it was like I was looking for an answer and I got one, and I'm so relieved to have gotten one. It's just interesting with that word enough. Sometimes it would have been okay to not have gotten more, and sometimes it's just not okay. And it's just I think it's the awareness piece around it that matters.
Right. And that is, you know, a large of, you know, my coaching. I label myself a self-awareness coach, and most of that is helping people become present to their life. Right. And, you know, there is many times, you know, I can just speak for myself, that there are many times that I felt that, you know, oh, I am so self-aware with no awareness, right? You know, and people are like, dude, right? You know, you have no awareness what's going on in your life right now. But I would like tell them that, oh yeah, I know, you know, and I can just rattle all the things off.
Oh yeah, you're like, oh yeah, I did that on purpose. And then you are like, when I was actually in that moment, I just did it because that's the only thing I could possibly think of doing. And then 3 months later, you're like, oh yeah, no, my life has intention and purpose. I'm very self-aware. But then later you're like, that was a lie. I had no idea. I had no idea what I was doing, why I was doing it. But at least still being able to recognize that you had no idea what you're doing and that you still made it through.
Right.
That's good to reflect on just in itself.
I know. It's like, you know, I'm aware and I'm also unaware. And just like embrace that. Yeah. And there's just so much movement. It's like, also for me, it feels like it's adding on, but it's also moving forward. It's like inviting you to lean forward in your life. And it's like, the more that we're, you know, taking the next step, the more that we are creating our path, the more that we are living our life, we are not just stopping at a place. And also isn't, for me right now, is feeling that it's not, I'm just like, I just had this image of, I don't know if you ever saw the movie The Jerk, where, you know, it's an old movie. So it's like, I look at you and it's like, oh, it's like, I'm like, my age is showing up right now. But so it's, you know, but it's a good movie. It's an old movie, but there's a moment where he's like, going broke because of his invention and everything like that. And he was like, I don't need anything else but this and this. And he's like, that's all I need. And then, but this, right? And he's still like adding things back to his life.
Such an interesting topic that you've brought up, especially as an entrepreneur, because over the years, so I've been in business for 6.5 years. Over the years, it's sort of been like, well, what's your end game? And I'm like, I don't really want to have an end game because that sounds just like death. Like,
right.
What's your exit strategy, Zoe? And I'm like, well, I don't really intend on exiting anything for a while, but so it's such an interesting thing because the goal setting itself can be such once you've achieved it,
right? Then
what, right? So I struggle with goal setting as a very self-aware person, because it feels like I'm either setting myself up to be disappointed, which I only want to set myself up to be successful, or it feels like once it's achieved, then okay, well, what was the point of setting that goal? Now I just have to set another one. So sometimes I set really ridiculous goals that, and all this stuff about SMART goals. Don't get me wrong, right? Like I was a kindergarten teacher. I've been to teachers college. I know guided practice and helping, and there's a team, and I want to give them I have, 11 employees. I want to give them manageable, reasonable, achievable performance goals.
Right.
But for myself, I really struggle with the and your goal for this week is to do it doesn't work for me. Just like I don't weigh myself. Like seeing those numbers, it's like, okay, well, that's the number I am today.
Right.
So what? Like for me, it's the accumulation more than it's interesting. It's like, it's the journey. And also it's, I don't even know what I'm trying to say at this point, but I find it frustrating as an entrepreneur to always be asked, like, what's your goal for the next 2 months? And I'm like, well, my goal is to be happy.
Right. And that's, and that's enough. Right. Look, my relationship with goal, and I don't know, I can't remember. I'm looking back through my mind if I've, unpacked that word on air, and I probably haven't, because there are some words that I just kind of, I guess, leave for my rabbit hole of a brain. But I pretty much feel like I am not a good goal setter, even though I invite people to set goals within the, in my coaching. I say, what am I committed to? And
that's interesting. I like that. I like that reframing.
And the more that because there are some things that if I say I am committed to and fill in the blank, it's just done. It's just, for me, it's like the hack of my brain, that it just kind of like, okay, this is what we're committed to, and this is what we're doing. And anytime I don't show up that way, because, there are moments where it's like, okay, I'm committed to being healthy. And it's like, okay, donut in hand. I hear in my head, okay, are we committed to, healthy eating?
I love that.
Are we going to eat this donut right now? And so it's like, okay, there's a choice.
This is something I talk about a lot with clients, because we're a marketing agency, which means that there are goals that need to be set. But I don't work with people if their goals are only like super, super hard. So I want both. We want a cost per click of something like this, because that's going to mean that we'll have enough inventory, or we'll have enough capacity to cover this many services or products, like very technical, very data driven.
Right.
And then I want to wake up every day feeling like I'm going to be proud of the content that goes out representing me. Right. So that's that piece of core values.
Right.
I am committed to showing up in this way on behalf of my company, with my company, and I'm not just going to say that we have integrity. This is how we're embodying it in every single activity and choice we make as a business. Right. And this has an impact on me as the CEO or the director of marketing or whoever it is that we're liaising with. I want to reach this goal revenue wise, or how many followers we get, or whatever that hard goal is. But also, this is how we want to embody ourselves in this ecosystem that we live in. Right. And if someone comes to me and all they want is to embody themselves, you know, as a certain core value type,
right,
or someone comes to me saying all I want is conversion,
right,
I kind of say, like, I want both. Because if you kind of pretend all you want is to show up authentically and whatever comes,
right,
later you're going to be coming back to me saying, but you didn't get me the results.
Right, right.
But if you come to me saying, I want the results, then you might come to me later saying, well, you got me the results, but like, it didn't feel very good.
Right.
So I'm like, well, we have to think about both the results and how we feel. And that's been such an interesting struggle for me as a marketer. This, you know, I can even think back to a time when my team was like, you know, the more data-driven side of the team was like, the data tells everything. But so even if it looks ugly, if the people respond to it, that's the data is king. And then the branding creative team was like, but it has to be on brand. It has to look good. It has to tell a story. It has to work towards the values of the company. And it has to be about more than just the product or service. We can't just talk about the money. We have to talk about the feelings and the values and they're like looking at each other. And I'm like, hello, it's both. You're both right. Everyone's right, everybody.
Right.
It's both.
I think there's many cultural messages that we have, and that it feels like there's a lot of things that are like black and white. We have this, you know, you have to focus on, well, you have to focus on one thing, right? If you're not focusing on one thing, you know, or if it's not this or that, you know, then, you know, that explains why you're not successful. That explains why you're having challenges, all that other kind of stuff. And we miss the power of also and, you know, and just because there is like I said before, it feels like there is this movement, and it's like, I can appreciate, you know, going back to our names, I can appreciate Willie, Bill, and William, the progression of that and what all that means. And still how, you know, sometimes if I'm being called Willie, I kind of feel like I'm moving back, but it brings this childlike, you know, understanding of myself that sometimes that's important. But it is that really being able to, you know, be grateful for it all, right? You know, instead of being grateful for only things that I like, you know, or being grateful for things that I want, you know, or, you know, it is that type of thing that I think we're missing.
Yeah, I think it goes back to what we were saying as well. It's like, I can be all of these things at once. And I can also say, today I need to lean into Mom Zoe, and that's okay.
Right.
So right now I am at my office, you know, my dog is here and I'm thinking about this. But as we said, we're live. If my phone rings right now and it's my childcare solution, I'm going to be gone. And I'm going to be out of networking, chatting, you know, thinking about like this reflecting mindset. And I'm going to be into what's wrong with my kid. And so it's so interesting, especially in business, because I've been in boardrooms before, especially as somebody who never worked for corporate before I started an agency. I was never taught how to behave in a boardroom, right? I was taught how to behave in a classroom and lead that classroom. So I can go into a boardroom and everyone pays attention to me because that's what I do. Right. But I've been in a boardroom situation before and the phone rings and it's the daycare saying, who's picking up Sabrina right now? And I'm like, okay, well, I'm the CEO. I have to set the tone. So I was like, hi, mostly men in the room.
Right.
That's my daughter, no one's picking her up. I need to make 3 phone calls. And if no one picks up, I will be leaving this meeting to go pick her up.
Right.
And they were like, okay, there's a room over there across the hall for you to deal with that.
Right.
And, you know, interesting. So it was a pitch. They didn't hire me. I have no idea if me having to do that had any, you know, oh, this woman's going to be distracted. I have no idea if that's why.
Right.
But that's too bad. Like, I don't even care. I didn't have a choice. I had to lean into that responsibility in that moment, and I'm not going to apologize for it. Right.
Right. No. You know, I totally get that. There is, you know, that lesson for me. I don't know if it's a male thing or anything, or, you know, a dad. The recognition that, you know, I was the only one for a long period of time that was working outside of the home, that there were many times when I would get those, you know, family calls at work, that it was, I will deal with this later. It is, I will stay present to whatever was happening at, you know, at work. And, you know, and feeling that me being at work and me staying present at work was me taking care of the house. And, you know, that worked until it didn't work, right? You know, because there was this, you know, there was this talk about work-life balance, right? And with this, yeah. And it's like, we think we know what that is. We think we want that. But, you know, you know, in some of my, my conversations, I invite people to not look for balance, but look for presence. And I think you did an example of that. It's like, look, this is what, you know, I'm at work, but this is what's happening right now. Hey, this needs my attention. And that's where I'm going to, I believe I am making a decision that this is where I need to be. And that is that also coming up again, that I think we have been seeing because of the pandemic, that it was always present, right? That, you know, we're not robots. We don't, like, you know, live in the closet, at our office, but sometimes our coworkers or the people that I work with, they act like I didn't have a home. I didn't have a family. I didn't have any other thing happening in my life other than what was going on this project, or, you know, and all this other kind of stuff. And I think the pandemic has allowed us to see that, you know what, we are people, you know, we are at home.
I'm so glad though, because I think I've felt that way the whole journey of running my business. And, you know, I think some of my greatest strengths and weaknesses is that I was an educator first. Greatest strength, because I think I see each person on my team and make capacity to help listen to them and say, like, you are on a journey right now. Oh my gosh, you're going to love this. I thought of this analogy, I don't know, like a week or two ago, and I'm obsessed with it. And it was such a realization about being with people and managing people. Oh, okay. I can't even wait. I'm gonna flub it. It's gonna be horrible. Okay. So this, and I'm like, don't steal it. I'm writing a book about it. No. Okay. Here it goes. So I had this realization that when you're a teacher, 22, 25 kids are assigned to your class, and they come into your class for a year, and you set class rules and expectations, and you have things that you need to achieve as a class, and milestones you need to meet, and games you need to play, whatever. And then they leave. But your team comes on their first day of school, and they say, I want to stay in this school all year. I want to stay in this school for 5 years. I want to stay in this school for 10 years. And they might say, this is not the classroom for me. Or this is the classroom for me. They're not being assigned to your class. They're not just worker bees being assigned to your class. They're choosing to come to your class. So there's a different responsibility being a people leader than, like, in a business than in a classroom, because these people, they're choosing to come and be in your class with you. They're choosing the expectations with you. making the goals with you. They're like, it's just so interesting because, and then that, I know, isn't it so interesting?
Right. Yeah.
But I found this, like, this sort of realization that if I over micromanage or if I over goal set on my own, I'm not leaving space for the rest of the class to come in with their expectations.
Right.
So the accountability has to go both ways between the leader and the team. And then you have to let the team become the leaders.
Right.
And so it's just so interesting because you want leadership to happen in your classroom as well. But it's like, okay, like Jimmy is the like chalkboard eraser for the week. You know, it's an assigned expectation. And of course there is that in performance reviews.
Right.
But it's the same thing. It's that, and also people are choosing to show up or they're not.
Right.
And if they want to be part of my classroom, I am honored. But if my classroom isn't the best place for them to grow and learn, there are so many other places for them to go. And like when I realized all of this, it was so freeing because I saw my team in a different way as well.
Right.
That they're all adults making choices about what class they want to be in. And I have a responsibility to them, but they also have a responsibility for themselves.
Right. Wow. I totally get that. And it's like, really, you know, we look at, there's a conversation around leadership and what we want and what we think leadership should be. And I think what I got from what you were sharing is that, you know, you're the leader and also you're not the leader. And there is a lot of that is happening with the people that have making decisions to be a part of, you know, of the vision and everything like that. And most of the times I've seen myself fail or have suffering within my business is because I felt like I had to, like, you know, go to the top of the mountain and get all of the edicts and then come down to my team and go, this is what we're doing. They have no idea where the hell that, you know, I went, how, you know, what I came up with it. But it's like there's like no decision. They're just like, okay, we're going to do this. You know, I'm here, so this is what we're doing until we're not doing this. And it is really that pressure that you were saying, if you were able to see everyone differently, that they are making choices. They have also running in their life. Then they're a part of this with you. And then the roles shift throughout the whole.
Yeah.
Right. Right. And wow.
It's so hard
and I think that it feels like that is.
We're overlapping a tiny bit, but that's okay.
Okay.
You go first.
Yeah, it for some reason there was just a delay. I don't know if your Wi-Fi is trying to go connect to somewhere else again. But no, it just feels like that's what we need right now to really. It's not just that we're all in this together. It's that we are also all in this together, right? We're not all in this together, and we are all in this together. And hopefully that wasn't just, you know, a riddle, right? But it just really kind of meant something.
Well, I mean, isn't everything kind of a riddle?
Right.
I mean, that's okay. It's okay for it to be confusing. But I think when I reached that conclusion in my mind, it made it a lot easier to let people in. Because it felt like what you were describing of, I need to be this leader. This means that I need to do these things.
Right.
And when you change the framing around it to say, you know, we're all actively making the choice to do this together. And they came to my classroom because they believed in X, Y, and Z. which are the things that I will always turn back to because they're me at my core.
Right. Got it.
So I'll always like, that's why I truly do believe that you have to spend the time setting the revenue goals and the followership goals and all of those things. Sure,
Right.
great. But also, how did I embody me being the embodiment of what I believe is the right thing to do?
Right.
And like, again, it's so interesting. I'll tell you a story. We had a client be quite disrespectful a few weeks ago, and it was right before the holidays, and it was really demotivating for the whole team, especially just coming at the end of 2020.
Right.
And I wrote a survey to my staff, and this is again why I was so interested in your show, because first and foremost, I'm an English major. So I wrote an essay on the word, I'm not going to say it out loud, BITCH.
Right.
And I wrote an essay on that word during university. And the professor was so fascinating that the assignment was choose one word in this novel and write an essay about it. That was the entire essay. Wow. So when I saw your concept, I was like, oh, I love this.
Right.
This is like university again.
Right. Wonderful.
But I asked the team, I would say this is about 6 weeks ago now, what does respect mean to you? What does disrespect mean to you? How much would we have to be paid for you to tolerate the disrespect? And I have 11 full-time team members, so I sent it to all of them. And the answers were completely all across the board.
Right.
And it, again, when I saw the opportunity to come on this and have this conversation, I was like, oh, this is like my favorite thing ever, because respect and disrespect, the answers were, I wouldn't take any money to be disrespected for a second. Right. We'd have to be making over $20,000 a month on that client.
Right.
We'd have to be making $5,000 a month on that client for me to tolerate disrespect. And then their definitions of disrespect were so varied. It was like, if they disrespect, my hours, if they swear at me in an email or, content calendar, if they, say something racist, and it was like, when I shared the answers with everybody on the team, they were like, oh, I didn't think about disrespect in that way.
Right.
So it's like, there's just so many different ways. So then I'm supposed to be the one that decides if this client is respectful enough, or if it's worth it to keep working with this person who's some level of being disrespectful. Like, will you ever have a client if
right, really?
Will you ever be respected all the time completely? Like,
right.
I don't know. I think I would have clients, don't get me wrong. I have wonderful, wonderful clients, but have there been moments with many people I've worked with in the last 6.5 years where I was like, do you think I'm dumb?
Right. Yeah.
Is that what you're saying right now without saying it?
Yeah.
Am I going to choose to ignore that comment right now because I need to make money? Yes. But you're kind of calling me dumb right now. I see that.
Right. Wow. That is, I had a mentor tell me around customer service that it's like the customer isn't always right, but they're always the customer. And so how can you communicate to the customer, to your customer, when they do something that is not customerly, right?
That's so interesting. Yes.
That they will stay your customer, right? After that,
you have to say something like, we want to give you the best customer service we can at our company. This is the stuff that we value, which means if these boundaries are crossed, that's likely going to be a cause for us to say that we're not comfortable working with you anymore.
Right.
That's what we tend to do at my company.
Right. And sometimes people can respect that and appreciate that, and sometimes they're not. And or then they're no longer your customer.
They can, and suddenly 3 months later, you're like, hey, that conversation we had. Remember that thing in the contract that talks about how we treat each other? Because to me, like value is given and share, like given and received in a
Right.
relationship. So let's not treat service providers like nobodies.
Right. Wow. Yeah, there is is something that's coming up that I wanted to bring up before we ended our conversation, because you mentioned that there was a lot of things. There's a lot of alsos in your life, and one of the alsos that I remember hearing that we have in common is that our children's books. And so I would love to hear how the children's book, the also children's book, showed up for you.
So I would say that the also children's book was a part of original Zoe. Like if you look back at Zoe's autobiography from when she was in grade 4, you know, what do you believe in? Who do you want to be when you grow up?
Right.
Do you want to have kids? The answers are like, I want to be a teacher and a writer. So that was always me. I have a, you know, one of these plastic containers filled with all of my notebooks of my weird kid, like the stories I wrote when I was a kid.
Wow.
Notebooks and notebooks full of them. And if I was to go back to them and like fix them up, they would probably do very well. Because they're very interesting.
Wow.
So I always fancied myself to be a kid's writer. Like I was like, I'm going to write books for kids. And I try to do it. I have now, as a grown-up, I have 2 or 3 notebooks filled with ideas for children's books. And I was like, okay, I'm going to teach during the year and I'm going to write in the summers. That was my big plan.
Right.
When I was a teacher, that was my big plan.
Right.
And then I hated teaching. So
that's another story.
Traditional teaching. I hated traditional teaching. So I basically what ended up happening is during the pandemic, I started working with a group of other female entrepreneurs in Toronto. So Canadian entrepreneurs who we started something called the Home Front. And the Home Front raised money for frontline workers. And one of the other women in the group is my co-author, Gabriella. And she is just one of the most talented art directors, like brand positioning experts ever. And she was like, you know, I have an idea for a book. And I was like, I have an idea for a book. And we basically wrote it together that night. Wow. And within the couple of weeks, we had publishers who were going to print it for us, all free of charge. We had 13 Canadian illustrators sign on to do all the illustrations free of charge. And all the proceeds of the book went to frontline workers. Wow. And the book is called ABC Stay Home With Me. So it's an we both, Gabriella and I both have 2 and 3-year-olds. Right. So we wrote it for our kids, but we also, you know, M is for masks. You know, like we really wanted to have a resource for parents who were going through the first lockdown. We wanted to raise money. We wanted to feature Canadian artists who were the ones being laid off the quickest at the beginning, especially. And it just achieved all of these things. And it was like, we raised all this money and I got some press, which was nice, you know, just because it was like very in line with who I am as a person and not some like fakey PR plan. It was just, it was just so genuine. And, and then it's now sold in Indigo, which is, you know, like Chapters or Barnes and Nobles, like nice big bookstore here in Canada. And it was just like, oh my gosh, when I know what I believe in, I can do anything. Right. So I had a reason to do it. Right. That reason was beyond me. It was social impact driven. And so I've learned a lot about myself and how I want to continue my writing journey. I would love all of my books to be proceeds to charitable giving. Right.
Wow. I think, and thank you for sharing that. And If you can put that in the comments section, so people can get access to the book there. But I guess the one thing that came up for me when you were sharing that is that you could have easily been overwhelmed by that. It's like, there's a lot of things that I'm doing and being right now, and a children's book is this one more thing. But by embracing that is you, right? But that wasn't showing up. That was always you. That was always a part of you. And that's why it came out of you so quickly. And I think there are so many alsos in our lives that are just basically are dormant in our life because we feel like we are so busy doing and being all these other things. And so really embracing with ourselves, right? Having that self-awareness that, you know what, not only do I have this one children's book in me, I probably have 50, right? Right. You know, I probably have, and this is what I want them to do. And when I have space for this also, it's going to happen, and it's going to make a difference in the world. And that was very inspiring because most of the times for me, I'll speak for myself, I get like overwhelmed by my ideas and things that come up instead of just allowing them to just kind of happen, right? Instead
I have the same problem. Like,
right.
It doesn't always work, right? Like,
right.
It worked then, and now I'm like, like, do I need to write a chapter by next week? And I'm like, no, Zoe, you just have to be, and you have to let, like, your body is creating a human right now.
Right. Right.
Okay. I don't need to, like, you know, and almost as soon as I tell myself I don't have to, then sometimes that's when it happens.
Right. Right. And I think that because that's the permission, that's the pressure release, right? That's because I don't have to. So yeah, I think we can talk about this for hours.
100,000,000%. But I had a feeling we'd have a great conversation.
Right. So that is great. Now, there's been a lot of things that have come up for me within this conversation. Is there any like nice little bow or nice little thing that you would want to leave everybody with to kind of really embrace their also?
I think that, I guess, as a final note, and I'll say it to myself because I'm about to become a mom again for the second time in a few months. You can be all the things that you are, and also you can find other things. And there is a way to dance through those things with a smile on your face. And it's okay to enjoy the fact that you're many things. And it's also okay to feel overwhelmed by it.
Wow.
That's it.
That's it. That's all of that. Oh, no, I get that.
I
Thank
hope
you very much.
That, because I get to a dark place too, where I'm like, am I enough? Like, even with all the things we've talked about, I still get there too. So, you know, I'm in my early 30s and I've accomplished all these things, and I still have the same question.
That's right. Wow. Thank you very much, Zoe Share. It's like you have the name that you have to say both, right? You can't just say one, you can't just say your first name. You have to say
it's a good name. Like, I'm very,
it is.
And like, it's good. Like,
and a fit.
Memorable. Share is great. They go get couldn't ask for anything more, Mom and Dad.
Hey, and there it is. And you live up to that. So thank you very much. I would love to say our formal goodbyes within the green room if you're able to stay. But this has been great. Thank you, Zoe.
Bye-bye. Thanks, everyone.
Wow. Who would have thought also the power of also? And I think the thing that I've gotten from this conversation is the conversation around enough. I really got that for myself. I've been sitting with that for a while, of really embracing that I am enough, and that I am enough. And there is also more. There's more to my life. There's more that I can do. There's more that I can be, but I'm enough. And the more that we're able to embrace that you're enough, and also there is more. I hope this conversation has brought value, not just to your day, but to your life. I invite you to reach out to me at iamwilliambrown.com so you can have a complimentary coaching session to see if I can help you with your also, right? Or just how you're being. Because the world wants you, the world needs you, but the world isn't waiting for you. So go be you. Have a great rest of the day, and I'll see you tomorrow on One Word Conversations.